A girl named Valerie posted this terrifying clip on May 12, 2024. Reportedly, she awoke at around 4 a.m. to strange rustling and movement noises outside of her home. Spooked, she immediately checked the security cameras, and what she saw would haunt her for the rest of her life. A skinny, pale, humanoid creature crawls up the driveway. The way it crawls is so unnatural. It looks to be a woman-like figure, but it's extremely emaciated and naked. And look at its torso here, certainly too skinny to be a person. Valerie, shocked and horrified, she contacted the police, to which they alerted all the residents in the area to be on high alert and keep their doors locked at all times. Because who knows who or what this was. What makes this footage especially convincing is that Valerie doesn't upload anything scary on her TikTok page. This is her only video that she has ever uploaded like this, which shows us she wasn't looking for fame and that the clip is more than likely authentic. One of the leading theories in the comments was that the creature was a Skinwalker, an evil witch spirit trying to disguise itself as a human to blend in. Or perhaps it's a different creature entirely.
So there's this new horror movie called Oddity coming out this month, and it seems super cryptic and odd. And I just got a sneak peek of it, so let's watch it. Cabin in the middle of the woods. What would I do in a cabin in the woods? Probably die immediately. I don't think I would survive a horror movie. Why'd you leave the keys in the door? Take the keys out. No. Don't open the door. Take the keys. A man.
Could you open the door?
That alone is terrifying, to be honest.
What do you want?
You're in trouble.
Sir?
I saw you come out of the house just now. You went to the car to get something. You left this door open behind you. Somebody went inside.
What?
I saw you go to your car and you
No.
left the door open. Somebody slipped inside. They're in there now.
I would have a heart attack and drop dead.
I didn't see anyone.
I know that. Your back was turned.
I don't trust him.
What are you doing standing outside my house?
Would you just open the door?
Nar.
I'm trying to help you.
Get a knife. Hell no. And I'm grabbing a knife. Absolutely not. I need to see this movie.
She was a model turned influencer turned cult leader who enslaved and sold her own followers into human trafficking. A cult can really be anywhere, hiding in plain sight, even on social media. I swear, you guys have been nonstop DMing me for weeks about this case here on TikTok and also over on Instagram, which is kind of ironic if you think about it. Kat Torres grew up really poor in Brazil, but she always felt like she was destined for more. She was always told about how beautiful she was, and at a very young age, she got into the world of modeling, which she was quite successful at. And then in 2013, at the age of 24 years old, model Kat Torres was photographed with the Leonardo DiCaprio. She definitely implied that the two of them were dating, although Leo definitely denied it. But regardless, this skyrocketed Kat into the spotlight. She got signed to a really big modeling agency. She was living in LA and New York City, and she was gaining a lot of followers on Instagram where she showed off her perfect life and her luxurious lifestyle. This is also around the time that Kat began using substances of the psychedelic variety, which changed Kat's personality, arguably for the worse. And Kat's online presence also changed. She had a rebrand from Insta baddie to spiritual guru, where she would post about her aura and the magic of eating vegetables. She also claimed that she was a life coach and also a hypnotist. She also claimed that she was a prophet and was in contact with a higher power. Can it be any more cult leader 101? Kat also began selling her magic powers to her 1 million followers on Instagram in like virtual coaching, which she would charge hundreds of dollars for. Like, imagine if I tried to sell you guys like a Zoom chat with me for $700. And then Kat had the bright idea to invite some of her followers to come work for her, come live with her, be her live-in personal assistant, and she would also coach them on how to be influencers and be millionaires. Imagine your favorite influencer sent you a DM and invited you to come live with them, and they would give you this massive online following. For a lot of young women, that would be a dream come true. And for Desiree and Letitia, who are both huge fans of Kat, they jumped at the opportunity. Both of these girls are obviously very beautiful. They were both very young. They had been fans of Kat's for years. They bought her online courses, and they were also both originally from Brazil. And after moving in with Kat, from the online presence, you would believe that this was an idyllic dream come true. 3 beautiful best friends sharing this perfect life, this luxurious life together, but it was not true. Upon arriving at Kat's house, both of the girls were immediately cut off from their friends and family and were brainwashed into thinking whatever Kat said was the key to their happiness and success. Both girls were also forced to bleach their dark hair blonde to look just like Kat's. She's creating these like weird little clones of herself. And the job that these girls thought that they were coming here to do was nothing like it was advertised. They were forced to do everything and anything Kat told them to do, and also they were not being paid, like at all. Not a penny. And Kat also stole their passports, so they were unable to leave and return to Brazil. They were enslaved by someone that they just followed on Instagram and admired. And then for Kat, not paying the girls for the work that they were doing for her wasn't enough for her anymore. She needed them to actually be making her money. So she started to force them into work. She created profiles for both the girls on escort websites and then began to sell them against their will at an hourly rate to creepy men online. And then Kat was pocketing all the money. So not only has Kat enslaved her followers, but now she's selling them online against their will, which constitutes human trafficking. But at this point, Desiree and Letitia's families have both reported them missing and believed that they were both being held hostage by an influencer. And then the media caught wind of this, and there were a lot of eyes on Kat, and she had a lot of explaining to do. So she wages full-out war on anyone that would question her with social media as her battleground. She would send her 1 million followers to harass anyone that came against her and even send them like death threats.
Hope you listen to this, you understand this? Die. Leave me and my family alone.
And this is supposed to be like a spiritual guru influencer, you know, talking about crystals and enlightenment. Authorities do find the escort profiles that were made of the 2 girls and also found out that a lot of money was being transferred to Kat's bank account every single month. So Kat was finally arrested and deported back to Brazil, and the 2 girls were also brought back to Brazil and reunited with their families, and from what I've seen, they're doing a lot better, but obviously there's a lot of trauma that has to be worked through. And then just a few months ago, in July of 2024, Kat was found guilty and she was sentenced to 8 years in prison for human trafficking and enslavement, which does not seem like enough time, and to this day she still does not believe that she did anything wrong and also still claims to have magical powers. If you watched the end of this video, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments what you think about this crazy story. Also, if you ever even heard about it before, because I had no idea about this until you guys were nonstop DMing me over on Instagram. While you're in the comments, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next, and I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow with another crazy case.
Here are 10 of the scariest films released within the last 10 years. So it takes an awful lot to scare me. As a horror fan, I feel like I'm quite desensitized to horror, but I feel like in the past 10 years, horror has come a long way. So with that in mind, my name's Ricky, I love horror movies, and here are 10 of the scariest horror movies released in the past 10 years. First up, we have Creep. So this is a found footage horror film starring Mark Duplass. Mark Duplass is normally known for his comedy role, If you haven't seen the film Paddleton, go check it out because it's brilliant. So this horror movie centers around a videographer who has been hired by a guy to film a video message for his unborn son because he is terminally ill. But when this videographer arrives, all isn't what it seems. When I say this movie scared me, I mean it really scared me. It's not a supernatural horror in any way, but what they've done to create this ever-present sense of dread, combine that with the really well-placed jump scares, this is a really terrifying film. And Mark Duplass in this movie is a creep. Next up, we have The Babadook. This film well and truly shit me up the first time I saw it. It was released back in 2014 and was directed by Jennifer Kent, and it's a horror movie that centers around grief. A recently widowed mother is trying to deal with the loss of her husband whilst trying to raise a really annoying kid. When one day this book turns up at their house about the Babadook. I love horror movies that center around grief. I think it really does pull certain emotions out of people and what that grief can represent in the real world. And the Babadook does this excellently. It's a horror movie that is classic in its roots. It makes us afraid of what's behind that door, what's round the next corner, what's looming in the dark. Next up, we have Deadstream. So Deadstream is quite a new horror movie, and you may be surprised to see it on this list because it is, in fact, a horror comedy. But this movie scared the shit out of me numerous times. So it's about a YouTuber who was kind of cancelled, and to get back in people's minds, he decides to do a live stream at this known haunted house. And it goes very, very wrong. At first, I didn't like this film, I didn't like the main character, but the more I watched, the more he grew on me, and I'm so glad I stuck with it because this movie has some legit scares in it. If you're a big fan of jump scare, found footage horror movies, you will like this, but unlike a lot of poor found footage movies that rely on jump scares, the jump scares in this movie are well placed and well done and not overused. Sticking with the found footage theme, we have Marui Video. Again, this is quite a new horror movie. I watched it last year, actually. This one really got under my skin. This was one of the first movies in a long time that has made me turn all the lights on in my house before I went to bed. And even with the lights on, I felt like I was being chased up them fucking stairs. So this is a found footage / mockumentary horror movie that centers around a cursed videotape. So this is a South Korean horror movie, and horror movies from this part of the world have the ability to scare me more than any other horror movies can. And I think that if more people start to watch Marui Video, it will start to become a cult classic like the Gondiums out there. Next up, we have another kind of lesser known horror movie from the UK called Caliber. This horror movie will shred your nerves, man. It's about two friends who go on a hunting holiday, and while they're out on their hunt, they accidentally do something unimaginable. And what follows is a completely nerve-shredding, anxiety-inducing, paranoid trip into madness. If you like movies like Kill List, if you like movies like Eden Lake, you will love this film. For a long time, people didn't know about Hell House LLC. But I feel in recent years it's had a resurgence in popularity, and rightly so, because this is one of the scariest films to have been released in the past 10 years. It's damn right terrifying. So as you probably realised, there has been a lot of found footage movies on this list, and that's for a good reason. Found footage movies have the ability to scare me and other people a lot more than a conventional horror movie. There is something about the grainy, shaky imagery that we see combined with well-placed jump scares, because again, there's a lot of bad found footage movies out there that use jump scares alone to scare you. Hell House LLC doesn't do that. There are, of course, a lot of jump scares in this movie, but they're well-placed and well-timed and needed. But this movie also goes to great lengths to make us feel creeped out, to make us feel dread, to make us feel anxious. Some of the scariest parts within this film are where the camera is just holding on an image, where we're just watching something, waiting for it to move, and it doesn't, and that's terrifying. Next up, we have The Lodge. Now, I've been banging on about The Lodge since 2019, and for a good reason. This is a damn right, well-made, slow-burning, twisty as hell, scary horror movie. There are sections within this movie that made me so afraid. This is another movie that I had to turn all the lights on in my house before I went up the stairs. It keeps you guessing all the way till the end, and there is an insane fucking twist that you will not be able to work out. It's creepy, it doesn't rely overly on jump scares, and it really gets under your skin. Next up, we have The Terrifying Host. So this horror movie was released at the height of the pandemic. It was actually filmed during the pandemic, and they ran scientific tests with a bunch of horror movies, and Host came out top of all of them movies as the scariest movie of all time. And I agree with them. This movie is terrifying. It scared the shit out of me. The first time I saw it, it scared the shit out of me. It really played on our fears of isolation and loneliness at the time. It's about a group of friends who set up a Zoom meeting to take part in this online seance. That's all you should know going into this movie. It's only an hour long, and it will scare you shitless. Now, for me, Skinwalker is the scariest movie I've seen in the past 10 years. Hands down. I know that a lot of people don't get on with this film, and I see why. I understand that. But for me, this movie unlocked and tapped into a fear that I didn't know I had. I haven't been this scared watching a horror movie since the first time I watched The Exorcist. This movie made me feel like a kid. This made me feel lost. It made me feel anxious. It made me feel the feeling you might feel when you're 6 years old and your mum walks off in the supermarket and you're left alone and you panic. It's about two kids who wake up one morning, their dad's gone, and all the windows and the doors to their house have gone, and there is this presence there. It's slow, it's methodical, it's analog as hell, and I haven't seen a movie in a long time or since this that has made me feel that afraid. So I'm going to do a part 2, a part 3 perhaps, within this series, because there are so many good scary horror movies released within the past 10 years. They were just 10 of my favorites. But let me know in the comments, what was your favorite scary movie from the past 10 years?
There's these weird ass like creatures in the sea, and you know those gummies, the shark gummies? They pretty much look like that. They look super friendly and shit. But somebody came across it in a TikTok.
Yeah.
And they started to play with it. And they ended up in the hospital, fam.
What?
So there's these things, I forgot what they're called. I think they're called like dragon.
Wait, how would they end up from a toy?
Dragon, I think they're like little fucking, what's it called? It's like little fish. I don't know.
Dragon tadpoles?
Damn, I forgot the name of it. Yo, leave down in the comments so you know what it's called. It's colorful dragon sea creatures.
See if Google knows.
Oh, it's this. It's called a blue dragon. Look at this.
What the heck?
But it looks yummy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as a kid, you would just see it and like, oh, this is cool to play with. Because what these are, they're pretty much these aquamarine creatures that usually land around the shore. So there's this guy, and he saw them, and he was like playing with them and showing TikTok like, oh, yo, look at these like creatures. Aren't they cool as fuck?
Yeah.
He ended up in the hospital. That's one of the most poisonous sea creatures in the world, fam.
Yo.
I'm pretty sure like if you got stung enough and enough toxins went into your body, you would dead ass be paralyzed.
Damn, that looks like
You
a
wouldn't be able to
Pokemon.
talk anymore.
That's crazy.
But
That
look
looks
at
like
it.
a
It looks-
Pokemon, fam.
It looks so fun. You know what I'm saying? Like it looks
does,
like
though.
you know the toothpaste with the 3 different colors. You know, it literally looks like that. Looks like some Colgate, right?
Yeah, like the
But
swirl.
look, and it's small too.
Oh, it's that
cute,
small?
fam. It's cute as shit.
No, I didn't know it was that small.
Yeah. So like you can imagine you're picking up, yo, what is this shit? And I think this is the TikTok. He goes, anybody know what this is?
And he just dies
and
from
just
that.
playing with it. And then the next slide is him in the hospital.
Heavenly Father, as we rise on this beautiful Thursday morning, We come before you with hearts full of gratitude. Thank you for the gift of a new day, for the blessings that surround us, and for your unfailing love that sustains us. We are grateful for the strength you provide and the courage to face whatever lies ahead. Lord, we ask for your peace to envelop us today. May it calm our hearts and minds, helping us to navigate the challenges we may encounter. Grant us clarity and wisdom as we make decisions, ensuring that our actions reflect your love and grace. We pray for smoothness in our endeavors, that our work and interactions flow effortlessly, guided by your hand. May we experience your favor in all that we do. As we step into this day, fill us with a sense of purpose and determination. Help us to embrace the tasks before us with joy and gratitude, recognizing them as opportunities to serve you and others. We also lift up our health to you, Lord. Keep us strong and vibrant, protecting us from illness and granting us the vitality we need to fulfill our responsibilities. May we honor our bodies as temples of your Holy Spirit, making choices that reflect our gratitude for the life you have given us. Thank you, Lord, for the blessings we often take for granted. Help us to cultivate an attitude of thankfulness, recognizing the beauty in every moment. Remind us that in all circumstances, we can find reasons to rejoice. As we move through this Thursday, may we be filled with your courage and strength. Empower us to face any challenges with unwavering faith, trusting in your perfect plan for our lives. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
F1 is ultimately a very dangerous sport. The cars are being driven at high speeds, crashes, flips, fires. Over the years, a lot of F1 drivers have died. It's not safe. But what happens when a 16-year-old spoiled teenager gets into a fight with his mom because he doesn't have his own American Express Gold card and decides to go onto the street and drive like a Formula One race car driver on a residential road? November 17th, 2023. On this very quiet residential street with these wealthy homes perfectly lined up, it's not even that late at night when residents hear what sounds like this big crack of thunder. They're like, what was that? Then another noise, and it sounds like a stick of dynamite exploding. There's weird hissing noises, whirring noises. Some of the neighbors, they run out onto the street and they see this white mess. It's a white ball on the ground next to this big oak tree. They're like, that is a car. It is a car that has been flipped over. In front of the car, there is this oak tree that has clearly been hit. But behind the car, there's a lamppost that's been knocked down. So it seems like this car was on the road, drove through the lamppost, knocked it down, flipped in the air, and hit the tree before hitting the floor.
Wow. So it's like flying almost.
Flying. They said it flew in the air. When first responders get to the scene, they realize two of the local star swimmers. One is this 18-year-old freshman in college, Flynn McCrell. Another, a 16-year-old boy in high school, Kieran Tagg. They were both in the car. They were less than a mile from Flynn's home. They're going faster than 100 miles per hour in a 25 mile per hour residential zone. They're going 80 over the limit. When the investigators get there, it is unclear if anyone was able to survive the incident until they see a foot and another, and one of the two boys in the car steps out by themselves and then collapses right in front of the investigators. He's going to be rushed to the hospital with serious injuries, and the other occupant would be pronounced dead at the scene. There were no drugs involved, there was no alcohol involved, so what the hell happened? 16-year-old Kieran Tagg wakes up in the hospital and everybody is asking him, what happened? Like, what happened in the car? What the hell is going on? And this all starts because of an American Express Gold card. 16-year-old Kieran Tagg is like, I want my gold card. I want a gold card.
That is crazy.
He's pissed that he doesn't have one, to the point where he allegedly starts throwing and breaking things inside the house, screaming at his mom about how unfair it is that he doesn't have an Amex.
We just got the trailer for a new horror movie, and I honestly need to know who the fuck thought this was a good idea. It's called Spin the Bottle, and at first I was like, oh, it's a fun, reference to the game. No, It's about the game. It's about a group of kids who are in Texas and they play spin the bottle in a haunted house and unleash some evil. I could get it if this was a parody. A parody would be fun. My buddy Slasher Talk makes parody posters like this. Go to a store and buy one. But this trailer does not play like it's a parody. There's no information about it being a horror comedy. It's just a straight horror movie about spin the bottle. The only thing this movie has going for it is that Justin Long is in it, and as much as I like him in horror movies, I don't think that's gonna save this movie. I hate being negative, so I really hope I'm wrong here. I hope this is a big misdirection. I hope this is a horror comedy that's just hilarious, but I really doubt it. And we won't have to wait long to find out if I'm wrong or not, because this movie is coming to streaming and video on demand in the beginning of October. I am like irrationally annoyed about this trailer, but let me know in the comments if you're excited for Spin the Bottle.
Guys, I'm freaking the fuck out. I tried to use the Randonautica app for a second time, and this old abandoned house is literally the location that it led me to. I wasn't that freaked out when I was inside because my sister was waiting outside for me. This room was really hard to walk through. There was tons of overturned furniture and broken glass on the ground. Then I get into this bedroom. Look, there's a fucking noose hanging from the ceiling. I literally didn't even notice until I left, and I was rewatching the footage. I was like filming the gas can or whatever that is on the bed, and I was like, wait, what is that on the ceiling right there? Why was there a fucking noose hanging? Someone please give me answers. Tell me. You got scared.
No, because I heard Natalie saying Jamie even when the windows were locked.
No, I didn't say anything.
You didn't say Jamie?
No.
Okay, so this randonauting app just brought us to this creepy town, and honestly, when we saw this, we should have turned around and left. We continued up the mountain though, and there's always abandoned cars and nobody around. At this point, we're definitely trespassing. We couldn't even really turn around at this point because the road was so narrow and it was such a steep drop off on the other side. We were kind of intrigued at how creepy this was, even though it was getting dark really quick, and next thing we know, the sun had gone down and the moon came out, giving it just more of a creepy vibe. But we had the pin pulled up, we were so close to it, and this happened. How to explain this? We're the only ones around, and a random rock falls. I think that was a sign that we should leave. But we kept going. Everything about this place was just giving me really bad vibes, and when I looked into here and saw this, as soon as I realized it's some sort of face, we took off running. I don't know what it is with this town, why there's all these abandoned cars and no people and mannequins in the window, but I'm deleting this app.
It is officially Gojo over JJK chapter 271 spoilers. Yeah, so as y'all can see right here, Giga Akatami puts Gojo in the chapter one last time, but not in actual real time, it's through a flashback. Bro, this is straight up enough to make a grown man cry. And this is the translations right here. Gojo saying, when something happens, I want you to be there for me too. I also have love and dreams, but you know one day everyone will grow up and leave me behind, right? I honestly think it's better to have someone stronger than me who can truly forget my existence. And then Yuji says, I could never forget you. Not now though, isn't that a bit concerning, Sensei? Are you really okay with that? And then he says, oh, you're so young and naive. You're brimming with confidence, aren't you? I have high hopes for you, desire and ambition. So yeah, Gojo really is not coming back, and also the last page did end up being real. That finger was 100% real. That is the final page of the Jujutsu Kaisen manga. As it stands right now, I don't think there's any confirmation for a part 2 or if there will be a part 2, but yeah.
Every town has something that they're known for. Hangjin, South Korea. This small town in South Korea was known for every June, children disappear. That was what all the kids were told. And even though parents would say, no, it hasn't happened in such a long time. If you watch closely, if you go there maybe May, you're not going to see a lot of kids walking home alone, month of June. Even during May, you see parents starting to slowly rein in the leashes. You honestly won't see many kids out and about in general the entire month. It's a very tense 30 days. The minute May starts rolling around, parents are already preparing. They're canceling all of their plans. They're just going to stay home after work every single night. If you ask one of the townspeople, hey, I'm new here. What's going on? Why is everybody acting so strange all of a sudden? Everybody seems on edge. They'll just sigh and respond. Neither the heavens nor the earth knows what really happened. What does that mean? There had always been these superstitious rumors that the town would have to give up a child every single summer, usually a little girl, that something or someone is taking little girls away every June as some sort of annual sacrifice. It's hard to say if it's true, Some kids say it's kind of like the boogeyman. The boogeyman comes and snatches you every June. Others say it's just sensationalism. The truth is, a few girls went missing in June for a few years, and now it's a whole thing. It was a few years ago. 2 girls had gone missing, both in June, both 1 year apart. They were both walking home from elementary school, and they just kind of evaporated into thin air. It's like a hole opened up in the ground and just swallowed them up. There was no textbook left behind, no backpack, nothing. They just vanished, no evidence.
This is the story of Maggie, a dog who loved snow more than anything, and the extraordinary lengths her family went to give her one last winter adventure. Maggie had been battling cancer for some time, and her humans, Elijah and Marianne, knew it was almost time to say goodbye. But before then, they wanted to give her one last perfect day. Maggie loves snow more than anything, so Elijah took to Facebook with an unusual request. Does anyone have access to a shaved ice machine? Our sweet dog is passing of cancer, and Monday we want to build her one last snowbank to roll in. I have a vehicle and containers to transport. I am hoping for about 10 to 20 gallons of ice, I think, but I'm thankful for anything we can get. Saying goodbye to her Monday around noon. Maggie and both of us thank you all deeply for reading this. That's when the Salt Lake County Ice Center responded. They shaved extra ice from their rink, packed it into buckets, and helped create a pile of Maggie's snow in her very own backyard. Maggie spent her final hours that Monday morning surrounded by her 2 favorite things: snow and the humans who loved her enough to move mountains or ice rinks to make her happy.
All countries in the world have collectively agreed that no one nation can own Antarctica, governed by the Antarctic Treaty of 1959, declaring it a land of peace and scientific research. Never been broken, even during times of war, which makes people think they may be hiding something down there. Iron-rich waters are sporadically released from the Taylor Glacier, which looks like blood, but it's actually just the high iron content reacting with the oxygen, which turns it red. On numerous occasions throughout the 40s, 50s, even up until the 90s and recently, military expeditions have reported to have seen unknown flying objects in the sky. Silver, smooth, usually disc-shaped crafts that move in sporadic patterns. Similar descriptions to the UAPs that have been declassified lately, so I don't know, maybe this is where the aliens are at. Multiple videos and satellite views of several caves appearing to go deep within the icy surface of the South Pole, claimed to be the entrances to the Hollow Earth and the Kingdom of Agartha, as explained in Admiral Richard Byrd's diary, among many, many other similar accounts. Pyramid-shaped mountains found everywhere that are completely natural and totally not an indicator of an advanced civilization that may have existed thousands of years ago. More mountains, this time in the shape of an alien-looking face, kinda similar to the face monument on Mars we saw decades ago that was later covered up as a case of pareidolia. The human tendency to see faces in everyday objects. Which it very well might be, but like, damn, does this look like something more to me? Several mysteriously named areas around Antarctica, like Rothschild Island or Rockefeller Plateau, said to just be named after the famous billionaires, but theories surrounding them suggest these to be meeting places for the rich and powerful, where they discuss their evil plans far from anyone else. Some suggesting that it may even be the distant cousin of a certain other disgraced island where horrible acts were performed. Strange, deep blue shards of ice, rumored to have been studied by top-secret research teams at McMurdo Station. Said to be extremely cold, close to absolute zero, very light, slightly flexible, and doesn't melt but just continuously shrinks until it disappears. Many stories claim it to be pieces of what is infamously known as the ice wall, or part of the dome that covers our planet in the, pancake Earth theory. This guy, Carl Robert Dish, was a scientist stationed in a research base down there who stepped out and mysteriously vanished on May 8th, 1965. No one knows what happened to him, but the strangest part of this story is that his last known footprints led out into the middle of the Antarctic wasteland for some reason and then abruptly stopped with no trace of his body anywhere. Almost like he was somehow lifted up into the sky. Bottom of the iceberg right here. Antarctica is actually home to a race of demigod beings who control and created us. Extraterrestrial entities that came from the sky the ancient Sumerians referred to as the Anunnaki, and we typically see depicted with wings in ancient cave art and carvings. Top-ranking world officials and elites meet and work with them in ultra-secure, top secret classified bases beneath the ice, which a few ex-Navy officers actually did blow the whistle on, where they control and manipulate all global events, deciding what happens next on the world stage. Stationed in Antarctica Antarctica to be as far away from the rest of us as possible and continue manipulating the fate of the world from the shadows.
A woman in New York, let's call her Valerie, she's anonymous. In the last few months of 2023, she's been having these dreams. It feels like a dream, and logically it makes the most sense that it's a dream because there's no other explanation for any of this. She will just wake up in the middle of the night, see what feels like a rag being held over her face. She smells a strong, slightly sweet, but also chemically scent, and then she blacks out. Maybe she goes back to sleep. Maybe it's a dream. She doesn't even know. The first time it happened, I'm sure we can all come up with some sort of rational explanation for this. But the second time, the third time, the fourth time, she's like, okay, I just need to know what is going on. What is happening? Why do I keep having these dreams or visions or whatever this is? December 29th, 2023, she decides to set up a hidden camera right behind the humidifier of the turtle tank in the room. She's got a little turtle tank in there. She sets up the camera and she's just recording herself. She just wants to know what is happening when she goes to sleep, that she has these weird memories, dreams. She doesn't know. She sets up the camera in the room and she falls asleep. She wakes up at around 2 a.m. and she decides, okay, that was weird. I felt like I had the same dream. I had the same feeling. Let me go check the camera. She rewatches the footage in the middle of the night. After she had fallen asleep that night, a man walks in with a rag into her room while she's sleeping, approaches the bed, pushes the rag against her face, and I'm sure she can visibly on the footage see herself struggling, fighting it before her body goes limp and she blacks out. That figure then proceeds to touch her sexually everywhere. But the craziest thing is she was at work that night. The man in the video is her boss. 60-year-old Paul Giacopelli, an anesthesiologist, drugging her and essaying her while she works overnight to babysit his kids who both have disabilities while he's supposed to be at the hospital, and he came back to drug her and essay her. The doctor is immediately arrested and confesses to the whole thing. He says, yes, he would fill this rag with sevoflurane. It's an anesthetic that he would bring home from the hospital. The doctor stated that he was attracted to the element of her being blacked out because he personally has, quote, chloroform fetish. He specifically chose to do this to his nanny because she's a, quote, easy target and she's a, quote, heavy sleeper. Mind you, he is a chief anesthesiologist at his hospital. He's also a dad to 2 twin girls, and he's married. When the authorities searched his house, they found other drugs that he had taken home from the hospital, such as fentanyl. He had enough fentanyl to kill 8,000 people.
What?
Somehow, with the video evidence, with the crimes of stealing drugs from the hospital, he was just barred from practicing medicine and will only have to serve 4 years in prison. That is it.
If you haven't seen this film, scroll on because I'm going to be going into great detail about what this film is about. My name is Ricky. I love horror movies, and I think that Salo is my favourite disturbing film. It's a movie that's incredibly difficult to get through, but in my opinion it's well worth your time because, as you're going to see, it isn't just disturbing for the sake of being disturbing. I think it goes without saying there is definitely a trigger warning in place for this video because I'm going to be talking about some very heavy things. The movie was released back in 1975, and I guess you can call it a historical drama that also uses political satire and extreme violence. And it does this to get across this movie's message, and we'll get into that. So the movie itself is actually adapted from a story that was written by Marquis de Sade. He was, I guess, an erotic writer from the 18th century. There is a movie about this guy called Quills. It's a good movie. It's not very accurate to his actual life. He wasn't a very nice person, and that film kind of displays him as quite a nice, hard done by guy, when in reality it's said that he was a pretty vile human. But again, a lot of the narrative around Marquis de Sade has come through generations of people who look at his work as perverted, so that may be a reason as to why he's judged so harshly. I'm digressing a little bit, but I think it's important to kind of give you the history of where this story comes from. While the original story was set in the 1800s, this takes place in Italy at the end of the Second World War. And it's important to note that Italy was in fact a fascist country at the time. And the director, Pasolini, uses this film to critique fascism, power, and I guess the dehumanization that results from unchecked authority. Again, all of this is quite important to note because this film is a lot. And I want to stress that this movie isn't just messed up for messed up's sake. It's trying to say something. So the film itself centers around 4 ultra-rich aristocrats. You have the Duke, the Bishop, the Magistrate, and the President. And it's widely understood that these 4 characters are meant to represent certain sectors within society. Specifically when it comes to the ultra-wealthy, the elite, that kind of stuff. So these aristocrats, they all a group of young men and women and take them to this remote villa in the middle of nowhere. Now, I'm not able to go fully into everything that happens in this movie here on TikTok, but while they're at that villa, they are subjected to some of the most dehumanizing, vile, vicious, nasty acts you could ever imagine anybody being put through. It involves being forced into situations that you do not want to be forced into, and forced to eat certain things. There is one scene in this movie that is unbelievably vile, and the movie does not shy away from any of it. It shows you absolutely everything. And one of the most surprising things about this film is the fact that it came from 1975, right? And when we look at movies today, we probably think that they are more shocking than movies used to be back in the day. And I think this is why Salo has been given this title as one of the most disturbing movies of all time, because it has been consistently disturbing since 1975. So if we consider this a disturbing film by today's standards, imagine how it was received back in 1975 when it was initially released. So these awful acts are inflicted on this group of people for months. They are essentially treated as objects, playthings for this group of ultra-wealthy libertines. So the film itself is divided into 4 chapters, and these chapters are all inspired by Dante's The Divine Comedy. The Divine Comedy is considered as one of the greatest works within modern literature, and it's essentially a narrative poem that was written by Dante, and it took him years to complete. Again, I've digressed slightly, but I think it's important to tell you what these things mean, again to highlight the fact that this isn't just a disturbing film for the sake of being a disturbing film. So the chapters for this film are known as Anti-Inferno, Circle of Manias, Circle of Shit, and Circle of Blood. So yeah, pretty heavy stuff. This is not a pleasant film to watch. It doesn't have a happy ending. It doesn't make you feel good and warm inside. What it does do is it challenges you, and it asks you to confront certain issues that exist within our society. And even though this movie was made back in 1975, there are questions that this movie poses that we should still be trying to answer. Ultimately, this is a movie about power and fascism. So the director Pasolini makes a direct link between the sadism of these 4 aristocrats and the real world, and the horrors of fascist power structures. The systematic dehumanization of the victims in this film mirror the brutality of authoritarian regimes. One of the film's biggest themes is completely dehumanizing the people who have fallen victim to these aristocrats, stripping all of their humanity away from them. And by turning them into nothing but tools of pleasure, the film critiques how fascism and absolute power turns people into possessions, turns people into objects used for the needs and the wants of these regimes. So this was a pretty long, heavy video. When I tell people that I like disturbing movies, this is the type of film that I'm talking about. I'm not a big fan of movies that are disturbing for the sake of being disturbing. I'm not a massive fan of a Serbian film. I'm not a massive fan of films like Trauma. I hate every film by Lucifer Valentine because they don't mean anything. And sometimes when you tell people that you're watching movies to get meaning out of them, they look at you, or they may perceive you as being somewhat pretentious. But we all get into films for different reasons, right? Would you call somebody pretentious for trying to find meaning in a song or in a painting? I like to break down movies and figure out what it is the director is trying to say. And that's why I like this film so much. It is disturbing, but it means a lot. I think it is the most disturbing movie ever made. But I also think that it's totally worth your time, whereas movies like a Serbian film are not.
There's a huge theory that Doctor Doom is gonna be teased for the first time in that show.
How though?
You ever hear about the Doctor Doom origin?
No.
Doctor Doom, the reason he became a master sorcerer, this villain that he is because of his mother. His mother was actually a witch. It led her to being trapped in hell. So what Doctor Doom did was mix the supernatural with the tech, join it and create one thing for the sole purpose of bringing his mother back from hell. Every single time it's his mother's birthday, he would go into hell and try to defeat Mephisto. That's like the devil in Marvel universe. Try to fight to bring his mother back. The show Agatha all along, it takes place around these witches. And there's a character that seems kind of sus already. A lot of people are saying that kid, he knows a few tricks up his hand. He was able to save one of the witches and nobody else was able to do. He seems too, I guess, weak to do it.
Yeah.
People think that that kid is Mephisto, the devil in Marvel universe.
If you see another person that looks identical to you, run away and hide.
I cannot believe they let this actually happen. During the 1960s, an archaeologist named Ty Knott traveled to Egypt to investigate the pyramids in his private plane. On his very first night there, he snuck past security and got inside of a pyramid. His main goal was to try and steal some artifacts so he can resell them for high profits. But after a few minutes inside, he stumbled across a tomb of an ancient pharaoh and decided he would steal it. He would then spend the next few hours avoiding security and traveling miles through the desert, dragging the casket back to his private plane. He was able to successfully escape with the casket and traveled back to the United States. When he reached back to his home the following night, he decided to just keep the casket in his garage until he could properly sell it. But while he was sleeping, he was awoken randomly by a loud bang coming from his garage, so he got up and investigated it. But when he opened the door, he came face to face with an ancient mummy that was charging straight at him. That night, a call came into the police from Ty's neighbor after he heard the sound of a girl screaming from his home. When the police showed up and looked into the garage, they all became sick at what they witnessed.
Dominique in general has had some very odd responses to questions during this whole investigation. He has excuses for everything. At one point, he told the investigators he only started drugging his wife because he wanted her to dress in these lingerie clothes and stuff, and she would have never agreed to it because she's so modest. So he started drugging her just so he could see his beautiful wife in these clothings. And then eventually that led to him inviting others to participate. He is heard calling his wife hundreds of times in the videos while she's being essayed by strangers. He refers to his wife as a... He then later tells the judge he meant that as a compliment. Dominique was asked if he was attracted to his daughter, to which he responds he does not remember having those photos of his daughter nude in his possession, even though he must have drugged her and fully put her into lingerie and then taken those pictures. He states, yes, she is my daughter, but that doesn't mean anything to me. And you can see that, in addition, she is way too young compared to what I'm usually into. She's not my type at all. I never touched my daughter, which is a very weird response. Caroline said hearing those words, she felt, quote, an unquenchable rage. But the biggest revelation came in March, 4 months after the initial supermarket investigation. 4 months later, both the two brothers, fake names, Julian and Thomas, their wives were asked to come to the police station.
No way.
Photos were found of the daughter-in-laws. Caroline would state, no woman in our family was spared by my father. Dominique has pled guilty of the charges against him, but there will still be a trial. He has charges of aggravated administration of harmful substances, invasion of privacy by fixing, recording, or transmitting the image of a person of a nature. A panel of 5 judges will determine the verdict and sentencing in December. He is facing 20 years in prison.
What?
20 years.
A brutal new folk horror movie that delivers on intense, creepy atmosphere and gory shocks. My name is Chris, this is Big Fat Cult, and here's my spoiler-free review of Heresy or WWII. Let's go. At just over 1 hour long, this wastes no time at all in plunging you into the story of a woman rebelling against the harsh patriarchal views of a small religious Dutch village in the Middle Ages. Blamed and ridiculed for being childless, she turns to prayer and rituals, which soon see her accused of working with the devil. What starts as a fairly traditional and familiar folk horror soon becomes something much grittier, impressively brutal and beautifully designed. It's intense, brilliantly shot, and with a fantastic central performance from Annika Sluters as Frida and direction by Didier Konings, this is a fiercely made and stylishly creepy film that packs one hell of a punch. For folk horror and religious horror fans, this is a must-watch new film. Having played Fantastic Fest and soon to be at Grimfest in the UK, keep a lookout for other festival screenings, and hopefully a streaming date will be available before too long. Have you seen WWII? Are you looking forward to it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to like and follow me for all the latest movie, TV, horror and pop culture content. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next one very soon. Bye for now.
Come with me to day 5 and 6 of being pressed at Fantastic Fest, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm fucking tired, man. There was this ghoulish book fair that was super cute. I met the guy who wrote the movie We Need to Do Something, which is a super underrated banger. And then here we all are for the first movie of the day, which was Gazer, which honestly none of us were really a fan of. I mean, I appreciate it and respect what they were trying to do. That's Daddy, aka the director of Daddy's Head, who we bought him a bunch of shots and got him really drunk because it was a lot of fun and we loved his movie. And then we went to this spooky bar down the street, which, I mean, the rest is history. I don't really know what else I have to say here. And then we went into the secret screening, which ended up being Heretic. And let me tell you guys, Heretic is the best horror movie of 2024. And I don't think anything is going to top it this year. And I'm just going to let my reaction here speak for itself.
Sobbing in the theater. I'm sobbing. It was the best thing I've ever seen in my whole life, I think.
Yeah, so that was my favorite of the festival by far. And then we did a Q&A with the directors, which fucking ripped. And then we got to day 6, and we started that day off by playing some horror trivia, and obviously, we fucking killed it. The first movie that we saw this day was Cloud, which is a Japanese film, and it had its moments, it just wasn't what we were expecting necessarily. After that, we saw an Indonesian horror film called Respati, and if you like Indonesian horror, you're probably gonna fucking love it, so I would check it out. And then I went back to the theater at 11:35 p.m. for my final movie, which was Bone Lake, which absolutely fucking ripped, and I'm tired, man.
This woman thought she was safe to reject her colleagues' advances. She wouldn't make it to her next shift alive. It was 2022 in Minnesota. Nicole Hammond was a beautiful young woman who enjoyed hiking, photography, and traveling. She'd even started her own jewelry business and had her whole life ahead of her when tragedy struck. The 28-year-old worked alongside a man called Michael Jordan Carpenter, who was 10 years older than her. Michael had a crush on Nicole and made his feelings known. He actually repeatedly made advances towards Nicole at work, and she felt incredibly uncomfortable about this. Numerous times he made a pass at her and she had to repeatedly tell him she was not interested. Now, it's believed that multiple colleagues knew about his harassment of Nicole, but higher management did not know. On the evening before the day in question, Michael and Nicole had exchanged text messages. Nicole told him outright that she did not want to be touched by him or manipulated by him. The pair had got into an argument. The following day, something absolutely horrific happened prior to Nicole's shift at work. Michael approached her in a car park with a pistol. He took it out and then shot her in the neck. Now, Michael fled the scene and was actually arrested about 3 hours later. Sadly, Nicole did not make it. He has just recently been sentenced to life in prison.
One of Heaven's mom's biggest memories of Heaven is every time she would come home from work, Heaven would drop everything and run up to her and slam into her into this big hug. She would run so fast that Heaven's mom would almost topple over. And now Heaven's mom says, "My daughter is dead. I am dead inside. I am just a dead woman walking."
ቤት ለመሄድ በጣም መጓጓ ለሷ ብዬ ነበር በር ላይ ነው የምጠብቀኝ የሚገርም ማየ ብላ ልታቅፈኝ አሁን ክረምት ላይ ስመጣ ዝም በሩ ከፈት አድርጌው ገባለሁና ትወድቃለች ምን እንደሽ ስለም ማየ ብዬ ለማቀፍ እኔ ከዚህ ላይ ደስታ ብላል እኔ ቁመሬ ሳኔ ገባ በቁሜ ነው ተቀበርኩት ልጄ አርፋለች
Heaven would have turned 8 years old September 25th of this year. August 1st, 2023, Gene is sentenced to 25 years in prison. According to locals, there have been stories circulating afterwards that he might have been responsible for 2 other children's deaths. And both times he was a suspect, but the families could not prove it. Heaven's mom states, "What hurts most is the support around him. I was told that I'm nothing but dirt. He has contacts, he has connections all around. He can pay people off. Me, I'm a poor mom and I have no power." Heaven's mom said, "Why is there no death sentence in our country? Is it because our children are not our country's children? Can they not see mother's tears? What if their children were killed in such a gruesome way? What would they do then? This is a small girl that was R-worded and murdered by a man. The judgment should set the example for these crimes. Otherwise, where will we go? Where will the mothers and children go? It's not like we have another country. It's not like we can flee somewhere else. Who do we cry to? Who listens to us? If our children can't be safe in our homes, where else can we go? Should we stop working and spend all our time with our children? Then how can we feed our children? Only God is on our side now." Many advocacy groups have spoken out to state that they believe that the sentencing is way too light. The Ethiopian Women's Lawyer Association states, "The murder itself should have been enough to sentence him to life imprisonment or to death. It's especially sickening and outrageous when such a horrendous crime is committed against children." And Heaven is just one of the many cases that the advocates are pushing back against. Notably, an 11-year-old girl was essayed by her father. He received only 16 years in prison. A man strangled and essayed a 14-year-old girl. She passed away. He got 19 years. A 17-year-old essayed a 5-year-old girl. He got 6 months in prison. A 41-year-old man who essayed multiple little girls around the age of 8 was only given 10 years. A prominent human rights attorney states, "Heaven's death cannot be in vain. We must use this tragedy as a catalyst for change. The Ethiopian government must strengthen its child protection laws, ensure that justice is served in all cases of child abuse, and provide better support for victims and their families."
Did you know some of the most powerful tanks of World War II never even made it to the battlefield? I wanted to go over some of these tanks. I have to start with the infamous German-made Maus. This thing weighed 188 tons. That's 3 Abrams. That is so much weight, the Maus was incapable of crossing bridges, which made it a huge failure. Only 2 prototypes were ever made. The T-29 is a monster of a tank and also the biggest what-if in tanking history. The war came to an end before this could be deployed. America was really lacking in the heavy department for almost the entirety of World War II, so this would have been a game changer. Unlike the previous 2 tanks, the TOG-2 here, made by the British, was actually produced on time just for the wrong war. This thing was designed for trench warfare, which is why it's so long. World War II ended up being much more mobile than they thought, so they ended up benching this guy for the war. Object 279 is a World War II tank, Bite Me. This thing was designed to survive a nuclear blast, and only 1 prototype was made before it was scrapped by the Soviets and they moved on to main battle tanks. This tank is also nightmare fuel for War Thunder players. I pray you never get matched against it. Uh-oh, it's Germany again. Finally, I have the Panther II for you, which is basically an up-armored Panther with some extra features. This was the most sensible prototype Germany ever made, and they never did anything with it.